Hello, welcome to Art Sparks. I am Mrs. Lewis and I am really happy to be here today. I have two children in Allen ISD. I have a fourth grader and a seventh grader. Thank you so much for welcoming me into your classroom today, and thank you to your teacher also for allowing me to bring in just a little bit of art into your day today. I love Art Sparks. This is a really, really cool art lesson. I think y'all are gonna like it. Now, before we get started, we go over the 3 rules of art. Rule number 1, we respect the art. We never go running up to art and like grab at it and poke it and be like, ooh, look at this right here. We always keep at least an arm's length away, if not 2. And this is particularly important when you're looking at original art in a museum or a gallery or just original art somewhere. Because you have to remember the art's valuable not just because of what it is, but because of its value to society and that it was made by somebody. The second rule about art is that we respect each other. Everybody's opinion counts and everybody's opinion is their own because people's reactions and experiences with art are always unique. So we don't make fun of each other and we may not agree with what one of our friends says about the art, but we still respect it. The third rule about art is that art, there's no wrong answers. No wrong answers in art, which is awesome. So even if it's a picture of boats and somebody says, I think they're unicorns, that's okay. They can think they're unicorns because their reaction to the art and how it speaks to them is theirs and theirs alone. Okay, so today's class is going to be about tessellations. I know. What are tessellations? Maybe you've seen them with Mr. Preston. Maybe you've seen them in other places, but let's go ahead and take a look at some examples of tessellations, and we're going to talk about our featured artist today. His name is M.C. Escher. So give me just a moment while I get the class pulled up, while we get the slides pulled up. All right, uh-oh, you got to see it all. Tessellations. These over here, these are tessellations. A tessellation is a pattern that is repeating and it's made so that it all fits perfectly together. And there's no gaps, no overlaps. And the shapes can be really simple. You see how simple some of these are? Oops. Or they can be really complex, like what we just saw. You find tessellations everywhere. Look around your house. Look at the tile on your floor, the brick on your house, the pattern on some of your furniture. You may find tessellations in all different kinds of places. They're found in art, architecture, and in nature. Now, today's artist, M.C. Escher, was a Dutch artist, and he lived within the last 100 years, so he's pretty current. And he was really fascinated and inspired by the things he saw when he visited the Alhambra Palace in Spain. The Alhambra Palace is famous for its amazing mosaics and tiles, many of which incorporate tessellation patterns. So our first piece today is called Lizard Design. It was created in 1945. Now, I want you to relax your eyes and look carefully. Look carefully at the main pattern and look carefully at some of the more obscure patterns that are within the details of the piece. How do the lizards fit together? Is color used in this pattern? Is color important here? How did M.C. Escher get this so precise? What was his technique for making these things happen this way? Think about it. How would you try to create something like this? This piece is called Sky and Water 1, and it was created in 1938. Relax your eyes and look carefully. What do you see happening? What do you notice? Is there a lot of color here? No, it's pretty stark, black and white and some gray. But look at the animals. Do we see birds? Do we see fish? Are they birdfish? Look at the detail. Where does the pattern start to change? Right here, the pattern starts to change. If we go down here and look at the bottom fish, look how detailed he is. And as we get closer and closer and closer to the middle, the fish detail disappears. The other thing that's happened is that the bird detail has disappeared. So let's look at the top. This bird has the most detail, and it gets less and less and less until it starts to merge right here in the center, where the fish and the birds become one. Do you see perhaps some of the smaller patterns within the bigger pattern? I see the fish scales as a smaller pattern, and I also see how the fish fins become more detailed as they go. And also, look at the bird wings. They become much more detailed. So, what do you think about when you see this pattern? And does this remind you of something called an optical illusion, where perhaps your eyes aren't exactly sure what they're seeing? You think it's one thing, but it might be something else. This piece is called Day and Night, and it was made in 1938. And this is a woodcut. And what that means is that all these tiny lines and all this tiny detail were carved into an actual slab of wood. And then the ink was laid down, one kind at a time, and the piece of paper was pressed onto it and lifted up. More ink was laid down, it was pressed and lifted. Think about the kind of skill it took to make this turn out perfectly, having to touch it over and over again. Now, again, relax your eyes and look carefully. What do you notice? Where do you see the patterns starting to merge? I see that the pattern seems to be a mirror image of dark and light, like the two rivers are hugging the picture. Look for the layers of patterns: birds, fields, rivers, roads. What would you feel like down there walking in those fields or visiting that town? What kind of people do you think you might meet? What kind of things do you think you might see? Do you think you'd see those birds in the sky? How do you feel about this? Do you think you would want to try to make something like this? To make a tessellation, a repeating pattern? You can do it. Here's how. Start with a simple square. Cut out a smaller shape from the square. Now it needs to be a simple shape, such as a triangle, or maybe even another square, or perhaps something with just a small wiggle. And you're going to see why it needs to be a simple shape in a moment. Take the shape you cut out in exactly opposite of where you cut it. You need to tape it in place. This is why it needs to be a simple shape. Now, trace the shape over and over. Fit them tightly together so they all line up. And if you'll color them with different colors, then you'll be able to really see the tessellation pattern. Now, once you've practiced, you can start doing things that are a little bit more difficult. Look at this. It was a red square cut out 2 triangles like this, tape them over here, and started going. So if you have time after class or on your own, why don't you try making a tessellation? Okay, thank you so much for having me in class today for Art Sparks. We are all done with today's lesson on tessellations, and I sure appreciate your time and sure appreciate your teacher having me in today. Thank you so much. I'll see y'all soon. Bye-bye.